There is a $200 device that plugs into your Silverado dashboard, keeps all 8 cylinders firing the way they should, and could save your engine from a $15,000 failure. General Motors knows about the problem it fixes. They lost a $100 million class action lawsuit over it. They still have not issued a recall. That is just one of the 10 modifications on this list. Some add horsepower you can feel on the first pull. Others prevent breakdowns that cost more than some used cars. These are 10 tricks to make your Chevy run better. Number 10. The speed limiter removal. Every Chevrolet Silverado that rolls off the assembly line comes with an electronic speed cap built into the engine control module. On most trucks, the speedometer hits a wall right around 98 miles per hour. General Motors puts that limiter there because the factory tires are only rated to that speed. They do not want the liability if you push past it on the highway. With a handheld tuner like the Superchips Flash Pack or the Range Technology Pulsar, you can raise or remove that electronic cap entirely in about 15 minutes while sitting in your driveway. The Pulsar plugs straight into the diagnostic port under the dashboard, and it costs between $300 and $400. Pulling the speed limiter off your truck is not technically a federal crime. Driving above posted speed limits, of course, is. Pushing a 6,000-pound Silverado past its tire speed rating is a genuinely bad idea. Owners on truck forums have reported drive shaft vibrations near that factory limit, so this one comes with a real safety warning. Number 9. Cold air intake without CARB certification. If you own a 5.3-liter or 6.2-liter Silverado, swapping the factory airbox for an aftermarket cold air intake is one of the easiest bolt-on mods you can do in your garage. Brands like K&N, S and B filters, and Air-Aid all make kits that replace the stock setup with a larger tube and a high-flow filter element. Real-world gains on a dynamometer sit around 5 to 15 horsepower, mostly at higher revolutions per minute. You will also notice a deeper intake growl when you get on the throttle. Here is where it gets tricky. In California and roughly 17 other states that follow CARB, the California Air Resources Board, emission standards, your intake needs a CARB executive order number stamped right on the housing. Without that number, you will fail your smog inspection, and the intake is technically illegal. The K&N 77 series carries CARB approval for certain Silverado model years, but not all of them. S&B and Air-Aid kits generally do not carry that approval at all. If you live in a CARB state, check that executive order number before you hand over your credit card. In states with no emissions testing, this is a total non-issue. Number 8. Catback exhaust and the muffler delete. Let me draw the legal line clearly because a lot of Silverado owners get this confused. A catback exhaust system replaces everything behind the catalytic converters on your truck. That means the mid-pipe, the mufflers, and the tailpipe. Because the catalytic converters stay completely untouched, a catback system is legal in all 50 states. Brands like Borla, Flowmaster, and MBRP all make bolt-on kits for the Silverado. A Borla S-Type runs around $1,000 to $1,500 and gives your V8 a clean rumble without annoying highway drone. A Flowmaster Outlaw kit costs about $400 to $700 and is noticeably louder. Where you cross the line is the full muffler delete. Cutting out the mufflers at an exhaust shop costs about $100 and sounds incredible for the first week. Then you realize that most states cap noise at 95 decibels, and a straight-piped 5.3-liter Silverado blows past that easily. Police in residential neighborhoods will absolutely pull you over, and some states treat repeat noise violations as misdemeanors. None of those exhaust mods come close to the legal trouble you can get into with this next one, though. Number 7. The catalytic converter delete with oxygen sensor spacers. This is the first modification on this list that is a clear violation of the Federal Clean Air Act. Removing the catalytic converters from a 5.3-liter or a 6.2-liter Silverado is one of the most common mods in the truck community, and it is illegal in every state. The performance gain is almost nothing. Independent dyno testing shows less than 4 horsepower on a stock 5.3-liter engine. The real reason owners do it is the exhaust sound. Once you pull the catalytic converters off, the downstream oxygen sensors immediately trigger a check engine light on the dashboard. The cheapest fix is a set of oxygen sensor spacers. They are basically spark plug anti-foulers threaded onto the sensor tip. They cost about $4 each at any parts store, and they trick the engine computer into thinking the catalytic converters are still doing their job. The EPA classifies those spacers as a defeat device. Fines for individual truck owners can reach $5,000 per violation. For shops that install catalytic converter deletes, penalties jump to over $45,000 per vehicle. The first 4 on this list range from gray area to genuinely illegal. These next few are completely legal, and they might save you more money than any delete pipe ever could. Number 6. Oil catch can for direct injection engines. If you drive any 2014 or newer Silverado, Tahoe, or Suburban with the 5.3-liter or 6.2-liter engine, your truck uses direct fuel injection. The fuel injectors spray directly into the combustion chamber instead of over the intake valves. That sounds like a small detail, but it creates a big problem. Oil vapor from the crankcase ventilation system still flows through the intake manifold. Without fuel washing over those valves to keep them clean, that oily residue bakes into rock-hard carbon deposits over time. By 60,000 miles, some of these engines have intake valves that look like they are coated in charcoal. That carbon restricts airflow, causes misfires, and kills power. The dealer solution is walnut blasting, which costs $400 to $1,200 and needs to be repeated every 30 to 60,000 miles. A Mishimoto baffled oil catch can install in the engine bay between the valve cover and the intake manifold. It catches that oil vapor before it ever touches your intake valves. The direct fit Silverado kit costs about $200 and takes less than an hour with basic hand tools. No tuning required, no check engine lights. You just empty the catch can every oil change. For $200 up front, you are avoiding a maintenance bill that adds up to thousands over the life of your truck. If you are getting value out of this, hit that subscribe button. We put out Chevy tips and money-saving tricks every week. Number 5, the Active Fuel Management and Dynamic Fuel Management Disabler. This is the single most important modification on this entire list. If your Chevy has a 5.3 or 6.2-liter V8, it came from the factory with either active fuel management or dynamic fuel management. AFM was on the 2014 through 2018 trucks. DFM is on 2019 and newer models. Both systems deactivate cylinders to save gas, and both systems create a serious reliability problem. The older AFM shuts down 4 of the 8 cylinders under light throttle. The newer DFM is far more aggressive. It runs 17 different cylinder patterns and constantly switches individual lifters between active and collapsed positions every few seconds. That relentless cycling wears out the lifters over time, and when an AFM or DFM lifter collapses inside the engine block, the repair bill is devastating. Single bank lifter replacement runs $3,000 to $5,000 at a dealer. If the collapsed lifter sends metal debris into the camshaft, you are looking at $8,000 to $15,000 for engine work. GM is fully aware of this problem. A class action lawsuit resulted in a $100 million verdict against them. There is still no official recall. The fix is a small plug-in device from Range Technology. It costs about $220, plugs into the diagnostic port under your dashboard, and tells the engine computer to keep all 8 cylinders firing all the time. No ECU tuning, no permanent changes, and you can unplug it with absolutely zero trace before any warranty visit. For 2019 and newer trucks with the 10-speed transmission, the Pulsar version adds DFM disable plus speed limiter and throttle response adjustments for around $300 to $400. Fuel economy drops about 1 to 2 miles per gallon, and some owners actually report better city mileage because the constant cylinder switching creates its own inefficiency in stop-and-go traffic. $200 to potentially avoid a $12,000 engine job. That is the kind of math that sells itself. Number 4, E85 Flex Fuel Tuning. There is a good chance you are driving past free horsepower every single time you pull into the gas station. 85 ethanol has an effective octane rating between 95 and 105, which is dramatically higher than regular 87 octane. That extra octane allows the engine computer to safely advance the ignition timing and squeeze out more power without knocking or detonation. On factory flex fuel Silverados, which include the L83 5.3 from 2014 through 2019, the engine computer detects E85 automatically and adjusts on its own. The result is roughly a 15% horsepower bump with zero modifications to the truck. You just pump E85 into the tank and drive away. For newer 5.3 and 6.2 engines that did not come flex fuel from the factory, the ProFlex Commander from Advanced Fuel Dynamics is a plug-and-play wiring harness that costs around $700 to $900. It adapts your fuel delivery to handle E85 without any engine control unit tuning or reflashing. The trade-off is fuel economy. E85 has less energy per gallon, so you lose about 20 to 25% on your miles per gallon. But E85 typically costs 50 cents to $1 less per gallon than regular gas. So the cost per mile roughly breaks even while your Silverado makes noticeably more power on every pull. Number 3. The transmission shutter fix for the 8-speed transmission. If you own a 2015 through 2019 Silverado with the 8-speed automatic transmission, there is a very good chance you have felt the torque converter shudder. It shows up as a rhythmic vibration between 35 and 50 miles per hour under light throttle, almost like driving over rumble strips on the interstate. General Motors released a technical service bulletin confirming that additive depletion in the factory transmission fluid is the root cause of the shudder. The recommended fix is a complete fluid flush using Mobil 1 synthetic transmission fluid, the blue label bottle you can find at most auto parts stores. The 8-speed takes about 20 quarts, and at roughly $18 per quart, a full flush runs $400 to $700. That sounds steep until you look at what happens if you ignore it. A replacement torque converter costs $1,500 to $3,000. A full transmission rebuild runs $2,500 to $5,000. Here is the trick most Silverado owners never hear about. Installing a $100 thermal bypass valve set to 70 degrees keeps the transmission fluid from overheating during towing and hauling. That overheating is the number one thing that breaks down those friction modifier additives faster than normal. Combined with a fluid flush every 40,000 miles, that inexpensive valve can keep the 8-speed shifting clean for the long haul. The 10-speed automatic in 2019 and newer Silverados is generally more reliable, but if yours develops harsh shifts between first and second gear, a calibration update at the dealer usually sorts it out. Number 2. The EGR delete on Duramax diesel. If you own a Duramax-powered Silverado HD or Sierra HD with any of the modern emissions-equipped engines, the EGR system is working against your engine every single mile. EGR stands for Exhaust Gas Recirculation. Its job is to send a portion of the exhaust gases back into the intake manifold to lower combustion temperatures and reduce nitrogen oxide emissions. The problem is that those exhaust gases carry soot particles. Over time, that soot coats the intake runners, the valve faces, and the EGR cooler passages. On the L5P Duramax, independent testing measured engines accumulating over 20 grams of carbon per 1,000 miles inside the intake tract. Eventually, the EGR cooler itself cracks, allowing engine coolant to leak into the combustion chambers. That can cause catastrophic damage. Repairing a failed EGR cooler on an L5P runs $4,000 to $6,000 at most diesel shops. That price assumes you caught it before the coolant caused additional destruction inside the block. An EGR delete kit costs about $100 to $400 in parts, plus $300 to $800 for the custom tune. The result is measurably lower exhaust gas temperatures. The turbocharger spools faster, and owners consistently report 3 to 5 miles per gallon better fuel economy on the highway. But this is a federal violation. It does not matter what state you live in, and the EPA does not care whether your Duramax is a daily driver or a ranch truck. Number 1. The full DPF and DEF system delete. This is the modification the EPA has been chasing harder than anything else on this list. A full delete on a Duramax diesel removes 3 separate emission systems in one job. The diesel particulate filter, DPF, traps soot from the exhaust stream. The DEF system injects diesel exhaust fluid into the exhaust to neutralize nitrogen oxide. The catalytic converter handles whatever pollutants remain. Together, these components represent thousands of dollars in parts that routinely fail on working trucks. A factory DPF replacement alone runs $3,000 to $5,000 installed. The DEF system is notorious for heater element failures and injector crystallization that trigger a progressive speed reduction on the instrument cluster. Your truck can derate all the way down to 5 miles per hour until the repair is completed. DEF repairs cost $600 to $2,400 per incident. Duramax owners and diesel forums report repeated failures between 45,000 and 95,000 miles on the odometer. A full delete replaces all of those emissions components with a straight exhaust pipe and a custom ECU tune. On the L5P, the encrypted engine control module requires a special unlock tool costing around $1,900 before any tuning can happen. Total cost for a complete L5P Duramax delete runs $4,000 to $7,000. Owners report 50 to 100 extra horsepower and 2 to 5 miles per gallon improvement in fuel economy. The EPA estimated that over 550,000 diesel pickups had their emissions systems tampered with between 2009 and 2020. Those trucks produced pollution equivalent to adding 9 million compliant trucks to the road. The agency collected $55.5 million in fines over 4 years. Shop owners went to prison. In early 2025, the Department of Justice shifted enforcement policy and stopped pursuing new criminal charges for defeat device violations. But the Clean Air Act language has not changed at all. The statute still says this is illegal, and enforcement priorities could reverse with the next administration. If a full delete is on your radar, understand exactly what you are signing up for before you spend a dollar. Every modification on this list exists because Chevy truck owners keep running into the same expensive problems the factory should have solved a long time ago. Whether you go the legal route or not, knowing what is out there puts you ahead of the guy who just keeps writing checks at the service counter.